Have you ever noticed how the wellness industry loves to talk about transformation, yet behind the scenes, most quietly profit when nothing transforms at all? I mean, let's just call it what it is. This entire ecosystem runs on a paradox. We sell health, we market discipline, we post reels about peak performance, yet our business model silently hopes people won't show up. And this business model, Albert's going to dig into it more than I could ever fathom, thrives when they drift, disengage, and stay home while continuing to pay. And if you're a fitness executive or in leadership listening right now, you know I'm not exaggerating. We oversell capacity by triple digits. We celebrate 1,000 new signups in January. We privately know we'll lose half of them by June. And you know exactly what I'm talking about. Here's the thing that's been gnawing at me. How did helping people change become financially intertwined with hoping they don't? I'm joined today by Albert Ramos Jr., fractional CFO, CAIO, founder of Stratego Intel, CEO of Valisites, and frankly, this is the guy all fitness owners call when the mirage disappears and the ledger starts screaming. Albert, welcome to NONFiltered. I've been looking forward to this for a long time.
My goodness, that was so good. I really appreciate it. And I love that quote where we're selling the dream, yet we're hoping they're not showing up to play. That was so good. And thank you. Yes, looking forward to chatting with you. I've been looking forward to this. I've been following all of your content and everything that you're up to. So super impressed, and man, I feel really lucky to be here.
Well, thank you. Thank you. I'm going to apologize in advance. So it's easier to ask for forgiveness than permission sometimes, because I know you can take it. I'm going to hit you right out of the gate with an opening punch that I've been saving for this episode, because I haven't had anybody on with your knowledge, your expertise. For you, what is the biggest lie fitness executives tell themselves the moment you walk into their business?
The biggest lie is that they understand their business, they're cash flow positive when they're really not, or they have a good understanding of their financials. I will tell you right now, 90% of the people that I chat with are way off. And so I'm looking forward to chatting and deep diving into that, as well as answering and giving you my opinion around where I think I'd invest a dollar when it comes to, if you're really serious about changing lives and people actually showing up and getting results, versus what I think is profitable yet easy type of opportunity, like the high volume, low price private equity side of the business. We could chat about that too.
Oh, thank you for bringing that up. I was going to drop that in later, but so it sounds as if you're touching on first, we're doing great because revenue looks high. I totally agree. And revenue, in my opinion, is, I've said this before, the greatest magician in this industry. It distracts us from the bodies buried in churn, deferred maintenance, staff burnout. But when you get inside and you start diving deep and you peel it back, what are the first warning signs you point to that snaps the CEO out of the delusion?
So it's going to be cash flow visibility. Typically, there is none. Say, how does my P&L look? Typically getting a 30-day past month-end close if there is any type of month-end close reconciliation process. And they're married to the P&L. They look at that top-line revenue. Awesome, this year's double-digit growth. Yet they look at their cash and I'm like, what is going on? And scratching their head. They have no idea what their cash conversion cycle looks like from the inflows and outflows. So that's the big one, cash conversion. And then I ask, well, how many months do you have in working capital? If things were just to stop in revenue, how many months do you have? And they have no idea. So the cash runway is another one.
Can you hear me?
So we're going to do this.
What's kind of ironic is these are two AI guys that can't figure out the tech. Doobie la 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 la.
Mate. There we go. All right. Can you hear me?
Albert, major problem solver.
Man, we fixed it.
Okay, recording will continue on a new track. All right, I got this. I'll just splice all this together. All right, where the hell were we? Well, let's just start. Sticking with that thread, you've seen hundreds of P&Ls in this space, probably thousands. What is the most painful truth hiding in those documents that leaders absolutely hate to admit to?
Yeah, so I'll start with the P&L, right? And again, like I was saying off camera as well, that I think we're married too much to the income statement, to the P&L, and we don't take a look at what that revenue looks like from a flow through yield per vertical and how that affects cash flow, both your inflows and outflows. And there's typically, I actually go to the cash flow side of things first before I ever go to the P&L, which typically owners, business leaders are surprised by. Like, no, let's take a look at my awesome revenue and how I'm managing some of these expenses. Yet they don't realize their cash bank account, it's not in a good spot, especially if that revenue starts to decline, especially if there's some type of an economic contraction. How are you protecting that working capital cushion? And so I go to the cash flow side of things, and fine. In most cases, there's no cash flow visibility. There's no cash flow forecast, right? That's not even something they're looking at or even keeping track of. And then that leads me into the balance sheet. And again, that's just one people don't spend a lot of time on or clean up. And so it's way off. And when they get that due diligence process or they have to go through an audit, not a good conversation.
How often are you dealing with, are you dealing with just like the CEO and COO and there's really no CFO? Or is there some type of experienced CFO that should be looking and noticing this stuff?
Yeah, in most cases, and there's been the good handful where there's an existing CFO. Typically, however, their skill set is more on the controller side. That's where they came from, CPA, controller, up that alley of accounting, where they didn't have a lot of experience and sometimes don't realize it till it's not that it's too late, but just further down the road is, wow, I need someone that understands FP&A and strategy. FP&A on how you build out these models, budgets, pro formas, right? How you really analyze the unit economics per cohort or the existing, entire franchise network, or brand or company, private company. So I think there's a little bit of that, but in most cases, when I'm coming in, there's a bookkeeper, there's an accounting team, AP, AR, accounts payable, accounts receivable. There's at times controllers who are doing some really good work and again just don't have that education or experience on the strategic side. And what I mean, it could also mean capital raising, bank relations, not just the cash flow forecasting or modeling or things like that. But in most cases, I'm coming in as the strategic partner. However, I do like to start on the accounting side because you need clean data. I want to take a look at the chart of accounts. I want to take a look at the books. I want to look at the P&Ls and the balance sheets. And I also use technology to scrape and build some of these things as well as assess and find red flags and anomalies.
Interesting. How many of them? It's been a while since I dove into operators' books. I remember where they were blind and it was all growth will fix all the cracks. And the focus was always on sales, 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 top line rev. And scaling can fix all problems. How often are you coming across this?
First, the classic quote, sales solves all, which that is a variable. So I say sales and profitable dollar, right? So there's a lot of talk around ecosystem expanding to wellness, right? I spent a lot of time in hospitality hotels expanding wellness, or even existing boutique wanting to expand wellness and recovery and IV and peptide and GLP. And so it sounds like, wow, we have all these opportunities, especially at a digital storefront nowadays, right? Where you can pop something up. You don't need physical brick and mortar capital anymore. And they're like, yeah, it's revenue here, revenue there. We're going to get so much traffic. We're going to get better share of wallet. And they don't realize that the resources that go into that actually make you underwhelmed. It's not 6 cents on the dollar is not the best thing that you want to attack with all of your resources. It can show me 60%, 70%. Industry average, though, as I look at, as you mentioned, thousands of P&Ls, if you're not north of 30%, good luck raising capital, good luck getting that private equity look at it, or even family office or any type of investor. They're looking for right now, as people are keeping their dollars a little closer to the chest, to the vest, unless it's AI, AI powered. They're not investing that dollar. It's too risky. But where I'm seeing a lot of the boutiques, and I won't name the names, but they're in the single digits, or you'd be very surprised. not in a good spot, meaning burning cash.
Yes. I don't have the same insight you do. The only insight I have is from the tech side right now. And I can say from those of us in the tech space, we're witnessing some growth in the boutique space, but most we're watching numbers dwindle. And it's almost as if, I mean, it's not our job to bring it up. We just provide solutions. But at the same time, I sit here and struggle as someone that's kind of in similar shoes as you. You want to be an advisor. You want to kind of be considered a partner, and you want to be able to kind of ask questions like, what's going on? Where's your pain points? Why are we seeing dwindle in numbers? Is there something we could do to help? Do you think the HVLP phenomenon right now is having an impact on the boutique space, especially when HVLP is looking at taking that boutique model and plugging it into their own four walls?
Yeah, it's definitely, I used to call them the ankle biters, right? Just the little mosquitoes, right? It's, yeah, they'll take some share, but is that the member you wanted anyways? They're that price sensitive. Probably don't want you because you're going to eventually want to continue to increase your price as your costs go up. Is that the member you want? Now, however, with the private equity investment that's going into something like an EOS, they're changing the game a little bit, right? Planet will always be around and be in its nice lane, as will Anytime, and Crunch is making a good run too with private equity dollars. And while I get excited about some of those things and the excitement of the purchase of gold by EOS and or the ones out in Southern California, it's awesome. Pumped. Is it a model I necessarily like to spend a lot of time in? Not necessarily, because of what you opened up with or what we were chatting about earlier around how many people are actually coming through. I mean, has anyone gone to Planet recently? And I just don't know. I prefer community-based accountability where the business, in the boutique space, they live and die by utilization. That's where I go next, by the way, with after all of the high level stuff. I'm like, I want to see your utilization rates. What's going on there? What's the traffic patterns? How are you maximizing each one of your appointment slots or class slots? And so it's a different model, right? They live and die by people actually showing up, coming more often. And you think with that type of frequency or power user, they're getting the results. So there's actually not a principal agent problem like you see in the HVLP. There really isn't the full-on incentive for people to come because they're not doing any ancillary. I mean, I forget if it's Crunch or Planet that are attempting, they're piloting the personal training. We're going to soon find, like, why the hell are we going to do this when it's 20 cents on the dollar? It's just the personal trainer rate and minimum wage laws across the country have continued to increase. They're going to try it. They're going to see. It's like, is this worth it? 20 cents on the dollar? It's like, man, let's just keep pumping out dues. Amazing flow through. And again, behind the channels, and I'm not going to, and even the brands that I just mentioned, maybe it's not them, but they're all hoping don't show up because my maintenance R&M costs are going to go through the roof. So even though I have these amazing deals with these equipment vendors and all of that, but so it's just interesting. There definitely is this tension principal agent problem on we're trying to solve a lot of these community-based worldwide health situations, health issues. That model is not necessarily the best model. I'd recommend people go spend a little bit more money on their wellness and health and get with a boutique or some of these wellness spaces that are popping up too. In addition to now when you travel, which I'm excited about, I think it's great to hear that some of these other industries are going to be spreading their reach to just make sure people are healthier and have healthy habits.
You brought up Planet, and I've interviewed several within Planet's ecosystem, and I think it's worse because they're not even charging for the personal training model. They're modeling, they're beta testing. It's literally, you can just go in online because everything's online and sign up for a training session. Normally it might be with a group of people, like 3 to 5. They try to position it that way, but it's all free. So they'll pepper that in there and then hopefully get you to hook and then up level you to a black card. Well, what if I'm a black card member? Now I'm just getting free personal training because from what they're saying, they don't see any future plan of how do we roll this out to become an ancillary service that is actually, and I'm not going to say revenue producing. I like to call them profit centers. If it's not a
Oh yeah,
profit center, throw it out.
absolutely. Yeah,
So
you saw that with the 24 and some of the others. As they got through finally, and I know it's required in some of these cases, and like a 2-4 bankruptcy and all of that, which Mark Mastroff has been very vocal about. If anyone was at it beyond that, that was a great conversation. That guy, speaking of unfiltered, that guy or non-filtered, he's raw. I mean, just not, I loved it. But yeah, they started to strip out all those kids clubs and all of that. They were just cost centers. So yeah, that's another one, right? Very similar to what I was saying earlier around revenue yield. And then what are this just plain out cost centers? Now, you also got to think though, what is the indirect and direct impact on attrition? 2026 is going to be is what's the lifetime value of what's happening there. So yeah, or retention improvements. So I'm curious to see what happens. But it's a cost center for sure. They're not charging.
well, and maybe let's just forget the boutiques and studios. Let's set them aside. That's their own little animal. The HVLP, because HVLP is just dominating. It's kind of like AI. All the money's pouring into HVLP because somewhere in some room they're seeing a 3 to 4 year quick turnaround on their money, and I'm sitting there going, it still isn't making sense to me. When you have a $10 to $15 a month price point, that's the member you're attracting, and then you're trying to upsell them into personal training at 50 to 90 bucks an hour. It doesn't follow. It's two different consumers, or they're trying to upsell them into these other amenities that they're doing, and those price points that I keep seeing, they don't track onto a cost conscientious consumer who's coming in for a $10 membership. If you want to sell to those members, in my opinion, it would be more beneficial for, let's talk about Crunch. Why isn't Crunch putting mega juice bars at the front as their check-in desk, and there's coffees, there's shakes, there's drinks? I'm going to pepper them with these little dollar items so that I'm upping my dollar per workout from 0, because nobody's buying anything every time they walk in the door, to, even if I can squeak $1 per workout from all the visits that day, that's significant revenue to the bottom line. Do you see any of these HVLPs trying to attack things from a simple kind of, well, maybe it's not simple, maybe it's simple to you and me, but revenue generating perspective and profit centers that you can sprinkle in that makes sense for the consumer you're actually targeting? All those dollars in marketing and advertising, those are the people you're attracting in. Then you're trying to sell them, hey, we've got a great new neon for sale for your car, but when you come in, we're going to sell you a Cadillac. Makes no sense to me.
Yeah, I just don't see. Again, we're talking about the pilot of personal training. I think that's short lived. I don't see any of these ancillary juice bars pumping up. They're just headaches to run. And again, it's just a different dollar, right? Down to the bottom line, it's a different dollar. And so when you look at cost of goods sold, I mean, many of these locations have a very, very small drink retail. But that's it. There's no supplements. There's no apparel. There's no juice bar. There's no coffee. There's no shakes. And I'd imagine there's a lot of conversation, especially when you get private equity hands in the cookie jar, where it's like, where are the other verticals? Give me more ARR, give me more MRR. But I know there's probably conversations about why mess up a good thing? By the way, we're a real estate company, not really a fitness company, we're an equipment real estate company. Really
Yeah.
what it is.
Yeah. Yeah. But they're wanting to fuel that growth by strict numbers. Typical Crunch, we're going to open up, what is it, 3.0 now? 5 to 8,000 members per location. That's the target sweet spot. And then we keep growing. Well, are you profitable? 8,000 members at $10 a month, is that profitable? Or are you relying on some other metric?
I'll give you from what I see. The answer is yes. They've figured out it's 30 cents on the dollar. When you compare these HVLPs, the margins versus some of the boutique, and I think the boutique, well, they have to go after more share of wallet. It's a must, right? Because it's a smaller member size, and the amount of Like, if you get one to a trip, it's not great. Two to 10 to a trip per month, that's not great. So, which gives them a lot of pressure on their margin. So you're looking at sometimes, like I was saying earlier, 15 cents on the dollar, 5 cents on the dollar, or underwater, and it's typically OpEx related or something like our utilization. But on the HVLP, it's actually really sound. The reason why though is because of the backing and the capital and the footprint, the rent per square foot, right? There's great negotiation there. The financing of equipment and a lot of the deals that are going on behind the scenes that a boutique owner is not getting. Maybe they're getting, you have the franchise network that has like a preferred vendor or that sources all of that. They get a good little deal, discount, but nothing like these HVLPs are getting in from years and years of solid deal for each one of those locations. So you're seeing a lot of the savings and flow through on the bottom line. Yes, they're profitable because they don't have a lot of the pressures on the occupancy costs that typically some of these boutique owners or the debt servicing as well.
So you're seeing on average 30 cents on the dollar. But would you say that that is highly dependent on the constant need for new members?
Absolutely. I think when you're, and I think that's just a given with the price point, you're going to get a revolving back door, right? A lot of what we do in the industry, especially in that segmented industry, is recycled members. They're just going back and forth, right? So yeah, it's constant. I think I posted something about this now. They didn't do it the right way. With a lot of great case study on LA Fitness. Very similar, right? They're all going through it right now. Golds is trying to figure it out, still being in the middle market. They tried to go into boutique. It didn't do so well. So they're really playing on the HVLP, I think, a little bit, trying to differentiate a little bit. EO's playing it, all of them. Yeah, if the top end stops, yeah, there's no cash flow, cash flow to distribute, right? There's no cash flow going on. So they need a constant drive new member add. And, as much as possible to squeeze the bottom of the funnel, great. If my attrition, and they're taking a look at some of these boutiques that are 3%, 4% per month, those barriers are a lot higher. And it's because of the, different price point, less investment, less potential loyalty.
It doesn't. Okay. It seems like it's the same playbook from the 80s. I don't know how old you are. I literally started in this industry cleaning clubs late at night with my dad at 8, 9, 10 years old. This is 1980-ish that I'm in clubs. And then I graduated to the front desk as a young teenager, checking people in, making shakes, blah, blah, blah. Personal training, sales manager, club manager, multi-club manager. It's the same playbook. We didn't talk engagement back then. We knew we were going to sign people up and that 80% of them were going to be gone and lost. And next January, we'll see some of those faces again, and hopefully we'll be able to penetrate in the market. Here we are, 2025, and I'm struggling to understand, is it just people bankrolling the entire thing across the industry, still counting on the same patterns of behavior by the public, and that we're just supposed to we're going to continue to sign people up every single month, knowing that 70 to 80% of them aren't going to be around in a few months, maybe if you're lucky, 6 months. And we just got to keep that churn going. Versus, do you see anybody in the space at the leadership level truly trying to make an impact where they're living up to? I mean, I started with this episode with talking about this dichotomy. We say one thing, but we're doing we're hoping for the exact opposite. We just want to sign them up and hope they don't show up, but just continue to pay. And yet Gen Z is the best profitable market to look at. They aren't showing those same behavioral patterns to me.
They're also not signing up there, right? And you see the latest marketing campaigns are trying to target them. And it's not what they're looking for. They're actually spending more of the disposable income on things like, these community-based sauna, contrast therapy type of joints, right? Social community. I work with some of them, like Alchemized House and some others that are great out there. Other ships on a run. York is doing well. There's some others out there that Alchemy Springs out of the West Coast. So there's some great brands though that are catering to that exact target market. The HVLP is trying, but yeah, the consumer is not just about showing up, looking weights, or getting on some type of circuit training, and maybe get a free personal trainer along the way and a Tootsie Roll. And that's not what they're about,
You
right?
had to bring up Tootsie Roll.
I had to bring it up, and but
That
they're
was a
getting rid of those lunk
direct
alarms.
shot across the bow of one big brand. At least it's not pizza anymore.
I know it's not pizza, but I do have a sweet tooth. They got me because I'm like, okay, as much as I'm going to give you guys, I'm just wait till no one's looking, and I grab it and I open it, and then I go get my squats in. So I do attend those facilities as well. Actually, I like it because there's no one ever there. So yeah, I think you're not hearing it on any of these board calls or private equity calls. How many lives are we changing? Are we changing the world? That is not what's going on. As much as that's a marketing campaign. That's the pull at the heartstrings for many of these brands, or you see it, on New Year's Eve. It's all fun and games, right? That's just the attractor. It's the emotional pool, attraction power. But when it comes down to it, to the dollars and cents, the HVLP is why mess with something that doesn't need to be fixed. The leads appointment shows and conversion conversation every single time. We don't need to talk about anything else, and we don't need to focus on any tricks or anything sexy or new. Let's just focus on what works. We love the flow through reviews. They show up, great. They don't. Don't mess with my occupancy costs and R&M costs and CapEx costs. And we'll keep cash flowing to the next and find a great location, because we're a real estate company. We need to find the best location in the best market where there's great growth, super saturated and dense, with our target audience that can, is price sensitive, can afford up to that $19.99, and we're in good shape. Let's keep building.
So
and
let me
have to
tap
have a
into
pipeline.
let me tap into that crystal ball that you have rolling around in your head then, because what I see, and I think people like you who connect the dots by looking at numbers and seeing patterns, knowing the market dynamics, research and behavioral patterns, you're looking forward. Fast forward 10 years. Why, if I have money in a private equity or home office or any of that, why would I support investing in an HVLP when I look 10 years down the road and I'm wondering, I know what I'm seeing. What do you see?
I'll tell you right now, I think it is not a good investment in the future. And I'm going to get murdered for saying, it's like, hey, if you don't find me tomorrow, you know who did it.
We're trying to help them change, though. Whoever's listening, we're trying to help you change.
Here's where I think things are going with the technology. And people might think this is a little outlandish, right? Because we think about the day pass and the guest workout fee, maybe some call it, right? The walk-in, just the walk-in pass for the day. I think the consumer, as everything from the technology and AI being the DNA of most companies in the future, we're talking 5-10 years, right? So there's still time, is going to be a usage-based type of business model. I think
a gig economy.
It will be a gig usage, right? So when I use, I pay. So these HVLPs, they love it's ACH, it's monthly, regardless if you show up or not. When the consumer changes to I only pay when I use, which is very similar to the LLM model, usage tokenization. And this is what I'm consulting many of those that are in the boutique space and the wellness space right now, hotels as well. We're positioning ourselves already for that, because we're seeing that. And this is international, domestic here in the States. The consumer is starting, and they do this on their professional lives with tools that they invest in, on things that they use for work, or in their, at home. It's on a usage basis. So I think, and then people have been challenging me, there's no way, we're not going to get away from the month to month. People need to make a commitment. I think it's going to completely change with tech that's running behind the scenes. And then that's even going to be more prevalent when we get into this virtual space, right? So, big shout outs to like Lumen Fitness and some others that are really playing in the virtual space. Have a lot of conversations even outside of the fitness industry around podcasting, actually. Some things that we're working on to position ourselves with a virtual environment. Hopefully very real. But that's down the road.
Yeah. Oh, well, yeah, you can keep saying it's down the road, but, it was just yesterday that people got introduced to ChatGPT. And
they just crossed over the 3 year.
Yeah, just that simple tool has dramatically shifted the way things are done. So I love where you went with that. I'm applauding you because I thought I was alone. I honestly, all the conversations I've had over the last couple of years with so many different leaders, it seems like they're blind to what's coming. And all I keep seeing is engagement is the new currency. If you can't figure that out, if you can't make your members feel engaged, feel part of something different, period, you're done. Because I kept seeing this. I even wrote an article about employees being positioned as gig employees. Why should I have a fit pro? I'm calling them fit pros, personal trainers. Fit pro held hostage to my brand when they're most likely a Gen Zer by now, and they're going to go over to this brand, that brand, that brand, that park. They're doing their own thing. They're doing stuff in a mall or something, and people are paying them for usage. So you're going to end up having gig employees also. You got to figure these.
The funny thing is, whether the organization knows, whether they know it or not, it's already happening. So those fitness professionals, those personal trainers that you think are just your W-2 employee with a non-compete, not happening.
Yeah.
They are doing some type of digital experience, whether that be through nutrition, movement, video, type of working out.
Absolutely.
It's already happening. So you're right. The team member side of things from a gig economy, and then the member side of things will for sure be on a usage base, right? And I think people just research, Web 3.0, research tokenization, usage-based pricing models. And that's the hard part on my side, is how do you model that, right? And you're right. The key, re-engagement, re-engagement. How do you get them to come back? So if your model is you're dismissive of repeat visitors, although they're paying you every month, but if you're dismissive of getting them to come back, it's okay, we'll see. Or maybe they cancel, but we'll cycle them later. Good luck. It's not going to be a pretty show for you. So for those that are in that model, it's cool. You're banking it, you're cashing it in, you're cash flowing that bad boy. You better cash out soon because it's going to change. Yeah.
Because it's kicking the can. It's kicking the can down the road. So the last guy holding the bag loses.
For sure. Yeah. Unless they're willing to disrupt a little bit, which may hurt a little bit, but for the long run, it'll work out. So, but you'd have to significantly change the model of the entire brand. Well, and maybe that's okay.
This is non-filtered, and you've got an inside expertise. So I want to talk about brand. Which brand do you think in the HVLP space is best positioned from a leadership standpoint, who's projecting to the market, we're going to take risks, we're going to be innovative, we're going to try new things, that is most likely to survive after 10 years? I have my thoughts, but I'm wondering where yours are.
On the HVLP side, look, I'm a big fan from the financial end for a lot of them, right? Like we mentioned some of the names. Big fan of Plank. I think for what they do a great job. They're consistent. They're simple. Sometimes they have some opportunities on how to utilize their square footage, but they've done a good job. They reinvest back into their equipment in many cases, depending on the demo and how that specific units do them. I really enjoy what Crunch is up to. I think a lot of the leadership, especially those on the financial side that have raised this capital and gotten people involved, have done a great job. They kind of came back when we thought it was screwed for the long term. So they're revitalized. The one that really just caught me by surprise, they at least caught my eye and where they were placing their clubs. I go work out and shop them, but I'm noticing how they're also investing in recovery. They're innovative, and they have these towel kiosks that you scan your card on. EOS is the one that's really catching my attention. I just think it's getting better and better, and they remind me where they place their locations, like the whole LA Fitness play and the billboard on top of the hill or near the freeway. They're just doing something right. They have really good leadership across the board, and they're catering to, for sure, the masses. So I'm excited about that. I just, I think just
Well,
keeping
it's a different
mindful of the
model.
expenses. Yeah.
It's not
Yeah.
franchising. They own
Exactly.
everything. I
Right.
was impressed. They caught my eye when they were willing to put black box VRs in. I was like, "Oh, okay. So there's some people inside of EOS who are willing to take risk. They're going to swing for the fences and willing to strike out, but they're trying." Versus, I mean, I'll be the first to say I'm a fan of Jim Rowley. He has done things. He and some others truly resurrected a brand that I loved from the 90s, which is Crunch. But I don't think this is the same Crunch because EOS, why I think, and you just kind of touched on it, with the billboards and their willingness to kind of be edgy, that was Crunch. I remember
Yeah.
walking into my first Crunch in 1990, and right behind the front desk was what we called back then peekaboo showers. The showers, it was an opaque wall with light shine on. There were people showering on the other side of it. So all you saw were the shadows of the people showering. And I'm like, and then a big 6-foot bunny runs by me and slaps me in the back of the head. And then there's a boxing ring over there. And I'm going, what the hell did I just walk into? And they're having pillow fights. I was like, I'm hooked. I'm hooked. This is not fitness. This is fun. But that's EOS now. EOS seems, and Choose a little bit. Choose seems to be sprinkling in here and there. But I would agree with you 100% that I think of the HVLP brands, EOS seems to be positioned best with not only an executive team who's willing to kind of take calculated, educated risks. They struggled a little bit with finding someone to put some money in, but they found them. But they're not building an entire model off of just franchising alone.
Right.
They're fueling their growth based on they may be as close to engagement in the HVLP space as possible right now.
Yeah, they're close, right? And they're trying to differentiate a little bit, right? Not get into the middle tier, but somewhere in the middle, which of the low tier or high volume, low price tier. So it's interesting. I'm still a little hesitant, but as I walk in there and I see the amount of square footage, they're good sized boxes. But I'm looking at the payroll. I was looking at their recovery zone, which a lot of this, what they do is automated, right? There's not necessarily a human needed in the loop, which is great. I think that's going to be a big one. And it sounds like they have people that are a part of their organization that are really focused on that, which is good. And they need to continue to be innovative, use technology. I actually had him on the show, Alan Thompson from Grow Solutions, and how they're using their CCTV to basically influence behavior through an app, right? So it's heat mapping you and it's moving you around the gym because it's incentivizing you to like test something. And I say that in the nice way, right? But it's true. Like it's like the dopamine hit. Okay, it's gamified. So you grow, and what Alan's doing is perfect. Like I see them, or if he's not already, I don't know. He should be getting involved with EOS, who's very, open-minded to tech, where I don't think the planets in the crunches, I just don't think they're going to mess around. They're not going to, let's not mess with what's going well. And when we need to exit, we exit. And to your point, whoever's holding the last bag is probably not in a good shape for the future unless they change too. EOS seems like a big winner right now. So the only thing that concerns me though is cost. I haven't seen enough of their under the hood. And so if there was anyone listening that would like for me to, I'd love to just take a peek and take a look to see what's going on there. But they're exciting. They're very exciting. So to answer your question, EOS for sure will be my HVLP big play there.
Yeah. Do you feel, and we kind of gone off track, but this is non-filtered. We're allowed to do that. So just shut up if you're screaming at me out there. It feels to me that everything in this industry seems to be cyclical, maybe 10, 15-year cycle where it just repeats itself. And the winner to me 10 years down the road is where I kind of grew up. It seems the mid-tier operators who figure out engagement solutions are going to be the winners. It's not going to necessarily be boutique. It's not going to, I think boutique and studio, that whole thing will get swallowed into a mid-tier, or those boutique styles or studio styles will kind of expand into mid-tier, and we will see much more. You bring up a lot of stuff with longevity. You bring up a lot of stuff with recovery. It will all be encompassed into one mid-tier, more 8 to 12,000 square foot, where we're going to rely on 1,000 to 1,200 members, and that will be our sweet spot. And each one of the members that we attract, we can upsell them on products that fit the price point they came in on. It'll go back to the late 80s and 90s, which that sweet spot was $40 to $60 a month. Your thoughts?
Yeah, as so long as they are currently positioning themselves to be using automation and AI. And I know that's like the hype and like the buzzword, but I really do believe that because things are far too expensive for it to be capital intensive. That's the problem with mid-tier. You're in a war, but on two fronts, right? And they got squeezed. And that's not just in our industry, it's just in retail in general. The mid-tier has not done a good job because it's too damn expensive. Payroll's too expensive. You got many of these states doing this like every year minimum. I look at California, and that's where I'm from, by the way, so no disrespect, but it's freaking hard to do business there because every year you got a buck climbing up for all your employees. It's like, man, and then there's just no consideration on the business surviving, and typically that flows through to the consumer, and then they don't want to do it, and so you're just fighting for every last scrap of dollar in this saturated market in the mid-tier, by the way.
Yeah.
So I think the mid-tier, if the unit economics can be improved with technology, um, some examples we gave earlier, I think you're in a good shape. If you can make it digital, and I love what you're talking about around the ecosystem, and I'm waiting like who is the solution to be the glue? Because you have to connect them all, right? Or else you're just going to get what in the environment we're in today, and that everyone's trying to figure out is it's so segmented. It's like, I got 9 different choices, 9 different brands, where it's wearable, supplements to peptide and GLP. It's just, man, it's freaking overwhelming. Like, and I got to go get my workout in, like physically go where it's a lot. So I think you're right. The mid tier will be physical. Right? The physical space will continue. That 40 to 60, maybe up to 99 will be there. Everything around it, though, the value prop will be this digital ecosystem that you have, right? And I honestly see it this way. You throw on your Meta, you throw on whatever, your Oculus or whatever, and you have your in-home, there's this sync or non-sync type of way to speak to someone on the medical side of things. You're ordering your stuff, or maybe it's your agent doing it on a company's website or Amazon. And so you have this ecosystem that is a digital ecosystem, but we all know the reality is you still got to move. So there will be that physical space. And I think you're right. I think because of the tech, the mid-tier will have better unit economics comparatively to what it's been historically. And they actually will have the advantage compared to the boutique, where people realize, shoot, I just need to move. I don't need all the bells and whistles. I'll have my ecosystem for that digitally later, but I just want to spend 60 to $100 a month, and I'm good with that. I don't need to spend, $399 up to a couple grand at some of these really luxury boutique spots. And I don't want to, I still need a little bit more than just the basics that I get from a HVLP.
I'd like to get your thoughts on this before we'll jump into the next segment. But okay, so I've known Self-Esteem Brands. I've known Chuck and Dan, those guys they bought a Minnesota health club. It was an old racquetball club, their very first club. And I went and bought all the old first generation Nautilus off them. Drove up. I just started a powerhouse gym in Bloomington, Indiana. And I'm like, I want more equipment. And I knew the guys before. I called them. They're like, yeah, we're just going to sell all this equipment. I'm like, I'm on my way. I'll take it all. And first gen, heavy, huge, but just doesn't break. And those guys have built something that is phenomenal. Self-Esteem Brands, when I look at it and I start just thinking about who could possibly most easily in the 7 to 10 year time frame maneuver into that mid-tier space and dominate, even if they had to gobble up one of the brands along the way in the HVLP space to kind of massage them into that. They'll just kind of readopt that brand into that segment. Maybe it's EOS, maybe it's Crunch, maybe it's whatever. But to me, it seems like, and I want to get your opinion if you see something different. Self-esteem seems to be extremely well positioned to be possibly that behemoth that maneuvers into that mid-tier space that can take the hits from both sides while knowing where the market's going.
Yeah, I'm a big fan. Self-esteem, purpose brands, big fan. And I think if we played this video every Monday morning at their leadership meetings, I think that'd be good because what I'm getting from the chatter that I hear, hear the chatter, um, some from the organization, some not, or some type of affiliation, is that there is a little confusion. What the heck's going on right now? How do we get through this with the brands that we have, both here and internationally? And I think you're right. I think there's some vision casting that is needed to let them know. I think you're spot on. They're an excellent brand that's set up for the future, and they just need to keep building around that. Like I said, what is their tech play? And I know there's a lot of that and a lot of investment already happening there.
Yeah.
But
Well,
I
they're
think
one of
right
the
now,
few that has a CTO
right,
and a
exactly,
CIO.
yeah, yeah, exactly, and a CIO, and but I do think there's some directional confusion. At least that's what I'm hearing on the ground.
Yeah.
So if there's anyone that is responsible for the decision making listening to this, I highly recommend vision casting and showing the roadmap for the future, um, including speaking to like when the consumer changes, will we be prepared for that? When it's a usage based economy, gig economy, which we had a little bit of that with like Uber and that continued Airbnb, right? And then Upwork and all of these things. It's going to be I think it's going to be the norm on a usage gig employee and customer, because that's how everything's going to be fueling all of this from the back end and all the tech. So yeah, I love that brand a lot, and there's a lot of good ones, right? I know you know, XPOF Exponential went through their situation, although very impressed. I will
At
tell
the
you, and I know
turnaround.
yeah, a lot of people don't understand sometimes that is what's required to survive for the future. Is sometimes you got to make some of these tough. The CFO there is super talented. I know there's a lot of flack on the CEO not coming from our industry, but actually some of the basics that they're doing, if you really look at it objectively from the financial lens, you're like, wow, that's impressive. Being a public org, like sometimes you have to, make sure that the shareholders are happy and make sure the business is set up for the long term. And so consolidation, removing toxic assets or unprofitable cohorts, stripping off what we thought maybe would be great, but didn't, Lindora and some of the other ones, right? They're trying to protect cash flow because they have debt to service. I'm excited about their it's like I don't know who's the Abel or who's the Cain, but you got sequel brands. You got Exponential and sequel. Big fan of both of them. We'll see what happens there, but I'm entertained. I like a little entertainment in our industry. I'm very entertained by that storyline. Maybe we make a documentary, a movie of that one day. So that's another good brand. And then I like looking at the, Equinox. Interesting, right? They get killed for this one too. They're paying the rent. That's awesome. And then you got sorry, it's a non-filtered. Non-filtered.
Yeah,
I'm
go
gonna lose
ahead.
all my business, man. I'm going out of
No, you're
business
not.
after
No, you're
this.
not. You're trying to help them pay the rent and
Yeah,
get
exactly.
profitable.
Pay your rent and be profitable. And then you got Lifetime, which I'm a big fan of. I obviously am a little biased there. I worked with them for quite some time. They do have and their CFO also very impressive on what they've been able to do on restructuring, architecting the debt stack and all of that. But it is capital intensive. Really happy that they're spending time in the AI front. Very impressed. At first, I wasn't necessarily a fan of Lacey. I think that name. They still have it, and it works well though. So I'll give them that. So that's exciting. But what they've been able to do to service the debt and just continue that pipeline. Great job. You see it in the stock value too. So it's good.
Well, I mean, you bring up Lifetime before we jumped into that next segment, but Lifetime is high touch, high hand holding, concierge service, high price point, and they're doing that well. And it should send signals to the market. There is something about engagement. And companies that, well, you're right on Lacey. It's probably someone's daughter's name. Come on, let's be honest. Let's be honest. And it's a beautiful name. Albert and I love the name. It's just, yeah, okay. But for
It was
AI,
kind of the way they spelled it, though. It was like L.AI.C. I'm like, who the hell is going to remember that? Like, I don't know, but that's just me.
yeah, okay. So I want to dive into the meat of this episode. Let's say tomorrow you and I were handed a $5 million brand, solid top line, shaky margins, decent audience. What are the first 3 truths you'd enforce the executive team to face?
Number 1, cash flow visibility. Number 2, we're scrubbing each one of those revenue line items, and I'm looking at the yield and profitability, and we're deciding what is the benchmark, what exists and what doesn't exist tomorrow, and we're going to move on that fast, including where are all the resources going from your marketing to your ops, etc. Right. And so those are the first 2 that I'd go after. And then I'd continue to clean up OpEx expenses, CapEx scheduling, right? R&M equipment, all of that, right? To make sure that the flow through, telling you it's one of the biggest opportunities that I see in our industry. And it's really just a financial literacy. And then finally, what does our capitalize? What does our balance sheet look like? Right? What are all the ratios? What's this liquidity positioning? What's the solvency positioning? And how do we re-architect? That's another major opportunity in our industry. Is people, unless they have talent, some type of experienced CFO, but typically they don't understand the options on how they can be capitalized. And I just see so many freaking mistakes, including on vendor agreements and the ability to negotiate, and they don't.
Oh, yeah.
Landlord renegotiations, like people think, listen, whatever my landlord says goes, and there's so many opportunities with and typically when you have the leverage to go in those conversations with an ace in their back pocket, they just don't know how. And that's why people typically tap on me is come with me, come chat with them about me, and let's find the opportunities, scrub the lease agreements. Let's got them. We know what we're going to do. We don't know the financials and what our plan. Same with the banks, right? Many people don't know the options. And then if they decide, I'm going to go to the bank, see what I could get, line of credit, loan, so they don't have the financials tied up and they don't get the yes. I get yeses because that's what I do first. So, yeah, but going back to your question, just to simplify it, cash flow positioning, visibility, positioning, weekly, 13-week cash flow forecast, unit economic, your margin, your vertical play, the yield play. Definitely.
The 13-week, I think I've heard you talk about, you've said before, 13-week cash flow forecast is a psychological intervention, not just a financial one. Walk me through what you actually meant.
Yeah. Sometimes you are so out of touch with your business. You're emotionally stimulated by your passion and the people signing up and all of the things that you're doing, which is exciting. And then again, your P&L, which is telling you I'm doing awesome on the revenue side. Yet your bank account doesn't match and you're unsure, but you just keep doing the same thing anyways. It's like, I guess the revenue's coming in, I'm in good shape. And then there's some type of an economic shock. And then you're firing all your team members and it's not good. And then you're slashing and slashing. That's typically the story. So you have to have an idea of your cash runway, your burn rate, your inflows and your outflows. That includes debt servicing. And then many owners, including for some of these brands, that have a pretty talented C-suite leadership team, just don't have their finger on the pulse there. So that's why Stratego is doing what it's doing, because there was just that opportunity. But I love helping people out, and so I've been having a lot of fun.
Well, in my opinion, what makes you different is the biggest thing is you touch on the emotional side of finance. And I see you not only just maybe parachuting in to help rescue or improve operations for these owners, you're somehow teaching them, guiding them, maybe mentoring them along the way, because let's face it, most people that get into this business, they lack a certain, financial literacy. They're kind of ignorant. That doesn't mean that's not a bad thing. That's not a bad label. A lot of people are ignorant to how finances actually work. Do you find yourself often having to be almost like a therapist in some ways.
Yeah, the other day someone called it a coach. And so a little bit of all of that, right? And what people don't realize about me, and I always say this, from a professional lens, my superpowers is I've also operated studios, clubs, over 300 units throughout my career, 16 years in the business. So I do have, and it's just always been a God-given talent on the mathematical side, and that's my education, MBA in finance and all that. But I made it a point. I was very, very introverted, right? You think of the classic finance guy, right, behind the computer screen. I could go cell by cell, line by line. That's just me. It's the way my brain works. But my pops and sports and all of that, mentors let me know you got to get ahead of the computer, right, behind all of this stuff and get out and be with people. So I'm a in the trenches type of leader. I love putting the operational hat on. Lifetime and some other the brands that I've worked with really made that exciting for me. And so whether it's a boardroom, a bank, right, a leadership meeting, or talking to over 2,000, 5,000 team members or on stage at a conference, I think speak to your point, that emotional side. Like, let's really talk about what's happening here. I always preface it with like, it may hurt your feelings a little bit because I'm going to give it to you direct on what's happening with your situation. But that's always been, I think, a superpower is just the ability to communicate field, ability to communicate operations because I've done it. I've been there, and I'm also a member at many of these places. So the member point of view, the NPOV, is what I use a lot.
I mean, I've been talking a lot and writing a lot this year about, I'll call it a plague of tourists that are being brought into this industry, into executive positions, who never spent one single day on the front lines. You have been baptized in the blood. Welcome, brother, of serving on the front lines of the fitness industry. There is nothing that compares to working behind the desk, day in, day out, servicing members, face to face with other human beings in this industry who most of are coming in with a hope, with a dream, with wanting to make a change in their lives. And 80% of them aren't going to be able, and you're not going to be able to help them, but you've been there, you've had that experience, which translates to the gift that you were given with mathematics and finances and all the ways that that works. What bothers me, and I'd like to get your input, is I'm not going to name names. I'm not going to attack the brand. But what signals does it send to the market? Does it send to your employees? Does it send to the members? Does it send to the people investing in your institution when you're a major HVLP brand and your main source of growth is franchising, and you bring in a person to lead the franchise organization who has never served in a club on the front lines, any experience, and their most recent
they served cinnamon twists and taco.
I'm not saying it. I didn't go there, but okay. What does it send to the market? And then you bring in a COO who none of us can figure, and has never worked in a club, has some unique experiences in helping a convenience store grow in certain areas, but they're making significant decisions for this brand. And it bothers me because I love the brand, but what signals does that send? These are the people we're going to put in charge, major in charge of our growth engines.
Yeah. So here's what I'd say to that. I'm going to give you two examples. I'm going to stick with the one right now that's going on.
I wouldn't name names.
For sure. I won't. But those leaders, I too was there where it's like, oh shoot, this is not going to be good. But what I see, what some of these brands like that are having people come from like the consumer industries of food, big food, they're doing the right things fundamentally. So I look at the finance team, they're doing a good job of it. So I will say a little bit different than what you saw in the mid-tier, a brand that went bankrupt post-COVID. that brought in a ton of Best Buy and Home Depot people. Unfortunately, they didn't focus on the unit economics, right? Mid-tier, not gold, not LA Fitness. You guys got what I'm putting down there. They're still trying to survive, and they're closing down a lot of their places. It's just, and Mark Mastroff called them out. Unfortunately, it didn't work out because it was people coming, trying to Home Depot-izing or Best Buy-izing, and it wasn't fitness, and they were fixing the unit economics. What's going on right now with some of these brands, consolidation brands or multi-brand type of companies, is the fundamentals actually look good, and we'll see it in the stock price too here soon. Good quarter, Q3 earnings and all of that. They still got a lot of work to do, but they're doing the right things. Although it doesn't feel good, especially those internal team members that are no longer there. It doesn't feel good. Sometimes you got to do that. You got to break the bone and put it back stronger. And that's what they're doing.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
well, I'm worried because of the brand I'm referring to. I'm not going to say it. What happens when the leader that's been there that revived it exits and the training wheels are off? That's my worry.
Yeah.
Is that now you've basically propped up two of the major positions that drive a company, and they're not from inside, and the leader just exits, finally retires.
Yeah. So if I were their competitor, I'm going at them at all angles.
Which I think is happening.
Yeah. Well, and the way you go do it too is you take their best people. I think there's a lot of that going on.
Everybody's stealing everybody.
Yeah. Who are the best people, and let's build for the long run, right? Let them prop up their stock price. But to your point, yeah, eventually the story.
All right. I want to dive into something here and get your opinion. I often will write essays or theses, mainly for myself, just because my head won't stop. It just, you're probably the same thing. So I want to read you something and give me your take on it. Let me pull it up here. In wellness, the greatest illness isn't physical, it's perceptual. We mistake effort for progress, visibility for value, revenue for retention. Fitness and wellness executives don't lose because their members fail. They lose because their story succeeds too well. They continue to believe the illusion they crafted for the market until their ledger, cold, sober, and brutally honest, which Albert points out to them, becomes the only voice of truth in the room. The next era of wellness won't be won by those who get more people through the door, but by those leaders who are willing to confront their own delusions.
Powerful. And I think that's exactly what we were just chatting about, right? And it has to be a win-win. It has to be a win-win from the finance. Well, let's go to the team member experience or your own passion as a brand, your culture, your values, as the founder and the owner as well. How are you truly tapping into what we're all saying we're doing, which is changing lives, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or at least that's what we promote. But what are you really doing there? So the member experience, engagement leads to retention. And then how are you doing it so that there's financial gain too, and not just for the gain itself, but to keep it operating, to employ more people, to go reach more people in your community, right? That's the monetary, the financial third tier of it is not a bad thing, right? It can be for profit and still be so good for the community.
Right. Purpose before profit produces more profit.
Correct. Yeah. So I like that formula around purpose and team member to member engagement experience to financials. That's definitely the route to win. What happens though is typically these owners are thinking maybe at first team member experience, or in many cases skip that one and just are all about the member, which, the member is important, but I truly believe you have to have the right culture and vision.
Absolutely. What I'm seeing with Valisites is doing something I would say most fitness CEOs are not ready for. You are removing their ability to bullshit themselves. Let's be honest. In your opinion, where does AI actually improve clarity for executive teams, and furthermore, where does it just automate their delusions?
That's a great question. So I'll tell you, there's clarity and then there's cleanliness, and both are important, right? While I spend a lot of time on the clarity side of things, which is more of your FP&A, right? You're forecasting, you're budgeting, you're modeling, you're raising, you're all of that financing. What really still is important, and there's a lot of players in the space doing a great job. There's a lot of tools. Look, I always say they're the non-paying sponsor. They don't sponsor me, but I'm giving them a hard time. Really, sponsor me. They always send me swag though, so I love that. Like they're unofficial, non-paying, non-sponsored. Great tool. Rillet is a great ERP platform for small to mid-sized businesses. The NetSuite killer, as I would say, using a lot of AI and automation to clean up the books, to close faster. That's the thing about what I see, definitely in the fitness space. There's other industries that are getting a lot better. I'm very busy in the construction space, very open-minded to this tech because they need to be. They need to bill faster. They need their cost accounting. A work in progress. Fitness industry, man, the amount of times like, yeah, we get the P&L 45 days later. I'm like, just throw it away. Don't look at it. It's bullshit by now. Like you should have been making decisions 30 days ago. So I have high expectations of a lot of the brands that I work with. My goal, my commitment to deliver with your controller and accounting team is less than 5 days. There's a lot of work that needs to go into that. And sometimes when I say a lot of work, just investment into automating or knowing how to use what you have typically is what it is. You're just not using the ERP, even QBO, QuickBooks Online, the way you can from automation and AI integrations. So the accounting space is the cleanliness side, right? But also it's like your launch pad. Then you get into the clarity side and make decision, what I call okay, so what, now what, right? I got my P&L, got my balance sheet, month end close. So what, now what do I do? AI is awesome for that. First, we can use AI. Many people don't realize it's here today. This isn't a Minority Report, Ready Player One, like think into the future type of conversation. This is today. We can use AI to scrape 10 years worth of, 6 years worth of, 6 months worth of your financial data and build out a 13-week cash flow that understands your vendor behaviors, your contractor behaviors, your revenue trends, and then look into the future. There's still human in the loop where you're moving things and iterating, but what would take weeks and weeks to set up and hours of weekly maintenance is now within minutes. And you think about the humans required to build that and the hours you're required to build that if you're building it, at all. And so, I had an opportunity the other day to see this also in the accounting side where we had an agent that called, that emailed and texted, walking a customer through a payment. This used to be a human doing accounts receivable, clicking a link on QBO, calling the customer, going back and forth, emailing, and now your inflow turnaround time is past 30 days, past 60 days, past 90 days, and you're wondering why your cash is upside down. You can use this technology to get your money faster. And you could also have a strategy to extend out your outflow. Everyone's playing that game. And sorry to run on this one, but we're just taught personally that you got to pay your bills on time or early in a lot of cases, like pay, fast. Businesses don't realize we're all playing this net turn game. If you're not playing the way everyone else is playing, your cash is not going to be in good shape. And that doesn't mean, harming your vendor relationships. It's just being very clear on, being very vocal and clear on, here's what I can do. Here's when I can pay you. Here are the net turns that are, meeting the needs of my business and having those conversations. So renegotiating those vendor agreements is key to your cash flow as well.
That's awesome. I mean, you think that more people who were operators during COVID and are still operators today would have learned the lessons. They were having those conversations during COVID. Oh my God, how am I going to pay? Who am I going to pay? You've got to call them and you have a conversation with them. But when times get tough and you're trying to financially manage your way through a storm or plan for a strategic move up here, so you're going to push off these vendors a little bit here and there, why aren't you doing it now? And if you don't know how to do it, call Albert.
We'll get it done.
His team will definitely get in there and get it done. And hopefully you'll learn something along the way that sticks and you continue to properly financially manage your organization in such a way that you can grow. You've got cash reserves in the bank that you can play with, or at least credit reserves that you can tap into when you got a tough payroll month, because sometimes there's 3 payroll periods in that month instead of 2.
Yeah,
Those
exactly.
suck. Or a
Sneak around in there.
holiday like
52.
Christmas falls on Wednesday. Oh,
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's
which
so funny. The 52 weeker. Yeah, you got some 3 years in there. And by the way, to the intelligence piece, something that I left out is it's not just building and having visibility, right? But it's also being told what to do. So you have insights and those great dashboard companies out there. And so we spoke of Valisites. You have this mixture of scraping and getting it done fast, the build out phase, visibility. You then have the insights, the dashboarding, meaning the data visualization that we're all used to. We want the green, yellow, red. We want the graphs and charts just tell me where we're at directionally, what's happening. But then the thing that AI is doing is taking it to that next level. Now what? Here's what you should go do based on the data, not your subjective, although you can mixture that in because human in the loop is still important right now. But here's what you should go do, right? So it's having a CFO in your pocket that lives in your ERP or QBO. That's what's going on. That's what's going to happen with everything is you're going to be able to curate all of this data immediately with your CFO in your pocket, your CTO, right? Your legal team in your pocket. Legal, it's coming after that industry right now too.
oh, yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's where it's all going, and that's why it's so exciting. So I think for the leaders out there that maybe it's just not your forte. You're not a subject matter in finance. What's awesome about this technology that you should be jumping into, or just thinking about how you're going to roll this out in your at least HQ side of things, your SG&A, is how can we support and augment the decision making to be faster and more sound? You're not going to spend hours sifting through all of that data. I said up to 10 years, right? Let the intelligence do it securely, right? And then am I saying it's foolproof? No. If anyone says AI first or AI is going to do this all, it's a red flag for me. It is not foolproof. Maybe 70% of the way there, and I still don't trust it, which is why I have a human in the loop to scrub it. Like me, I'm scrubbing every cell, freaking thing that comes out of that output because I don't know if I'll ever trust it. Even they say it's 100%. I want to know that it's accurate for my brands that I work with.
Peace of mind.
Exactly.
Yeah, I'm putting my stamp on this. I love that. I mean, you are touching on something, but I often wonder 2 things. The struggle with convincing leadership that this is the thing without them going down, oh, this is another cost for technology, because the fitness industry, just a lot of leaders, they balk at tech, versus a different conversation where they really see the value. Are you struggling with leadership understanding this isn't stop looking at this through the cost lens, start looking at this through future lens, innovation lens. It's going to save you here. Yes, it's going to cost you something. I'm running a business too.
So I actually do these AI launch pads where, because we continue to see a delay in the adoption rate, I've really spent a lot of time there where I'll actually physically or virtually go to an organization and teach their leadership team, what is this AI? Because everyone thinks AI, what they're talking about is generative AI, right? Generating image and the whole prompting and language and all that. What I talk about though is agentic workflows. GPT's agentic workflows and agents, actual productivity measures, not necessarily just the generative. And when people start to realize, oh, this is far more than what I thought we're just making silly pictures or hyper personalized pictures. No, this is something completely different. And this is a digital species, digital head count. I went in front of a ton of CHROs and CFOs the other day. And my first question to them to kick off this launchpad is, what is your digital species head count for next year? What the hell are you talking about? They gave me that look. Like, what do you mean? I'm like, we're on a hiring freeze for 2026. What is your GPT? What is your agent headcount? Is anyone in the organization talking about it? And if not, you're way behind. That's a big piece for.
Did
all
you
of
see
this.
the light bulb moments in the audience as they finally went, oh, that's what he's talking about?
For some, I'm a part of the CFO Alliance and CFO Leadership Council, and I think for the AI companies out there, for those that I love some new brands that are popping up here around AI and finance, but there's still a massive adoption gap. And I would say out of 10 CFOs, 8 of them have not a clue what the hell's going on right now. Then you got one that's trying, and then one that's been doing it for the last 3 years. OpenAI just celebrated 3 years. So there's still a huge runway here. And then you think about our industry that's typically way behind here. There's a lot. It's exciting though. There's a lot
It
more
is.
progress to be made. So I'm really excited about that. And that's where I'm trying to position Stratego and Valisites is to be that just resource. Once you decide you want to jump in here, reach out because we've done a lot of good work for companies within the fitness and wellness space, as well as construction, retail, hospitality. So we're having a lot of fun. It's just sometimes it does get frustrating though, because you have a CIO rightfully talking about compliance, governance, security, and leakage. Same with the CFO. The CFO is more talking about, and this is where we have to measure, right? Measure with small projects, beta tests within your organization, and find those pain points. Ask your team members; they'll tell you exactly where you should go put AI or the data. But it's the what's the ROI? That is probably now no longer the security thing. It's the well, what the hell are we going to get out of this investment? What is it going to
Right.
really turn into? And if you're not prepared to speak to that, whether it be payroll saving, productivity gains, price enhancements, better data, what have you, it's going to be tough to get your leadership team to want to invest in this and go roll it out. So many nuances, so many tools out there. If you don't have it proposed out specifically or know how to even roll something like that out, it's going to be tough. There's a lot going on.
Yeah. Well, it's clear to me now that we've had this face-to-face conversation how much you truly care for and love the industry that I've loved for as long as I can remember. Which is why I think you're being a little bit tough on this episode. I'm really tough lately on the whole industry because we want it to succeed. We see the benefits. We want to help people thrive and flourish in this world. What better way through fitness, through movement, through exercise, through wellness, through it all. So, Albert, thank you very much for showing up. Thank you for, just this is the most honest conversation I've had about leadership, money, and delusions in this space. Where can people go if they're ready to stop? Hell with it, bullshitting themselves and actually see the truth in numbers.
Well, let me give you that here in a sec, but I'd be really disappointed in myself if I didn't bring this last piece up around
No,
non-filtered.
please.
And I really want to challenge just all of the different brands, whether you're high volume, low price, mid tier, to even the boutique and luxury side of things. We got to come together and we need to have practical conversations, not around a brand touting or getting up on stage and talking about the rainbows and butterflies. We know how hard this business is, and we need to help each other. More workshop related. So this is a challenge to HFA and Fitness Technology Summit and Athletech and Beyond Active is we need to have more practical conversations and resources for each other out there versus just the fluff. And I say that respectfully, and I think there's a time and place for the inspiration and what's going on in the awards. But it's just like, man, we want more people to survive this business. We want more brands to thrive in this business because that's going to allow us to go truly change lives and do this the right way. And so I'm looking forward to a lot of those changes happening in 26 and beyond. And I'd love to be a part of that too. But I really do think this whole conference piece and charging 25K and it's kind of like what the hell did I get out of that? Did we get better? It's just, I think we can do better. So hopefully
I
people
love
hear
it.
me out.
Maybe there needs to be a coalition between Albert and Adam, and we build maybe HFA will have a non-filtered roundtable
Love it.
where it's brown bag and we bring a bunch of leaders in and no bullshit. Let's dig into the hard facts and hard truth. And this is going to be uncomfortable for all you guys because guess what? Growth only comes through discomfort, not comfort.
For sure. And I think when we change some of those settings and those conferences or events that we show up to,
Mhm.
then what's going to happen is we're gonna really pay attention to who doesn't show up for those. Because right now, I think we have some leaders within our organization, a part of some amazing influential brands that never show up. And I'm watching and I recognize it. And I think when we change the platform to be practical and collaborative, I think those that don't show up, we'll have some interesting conversations behind closed
Do you,
doors and challenging each other.
do you think we need to do that like at an HFA though? Can it be done in an HFA?
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. I think it's and especially what they promote and what they stand for. I'm a huge fan of HOA. I think it's their duty to. I think this is where, when we say we're changing our communities, we're changing people's lives, this is required. We all need to thrive and help each other.
I love it. So, to everyone listening, transformation isn't just for members. Your business needs it too. And the first step is usually the same. Stop believing the stories that keep you comfortable, and start listening to the hard truths that try to make you better. Reach out to Albert and his teams, because they will give you some hard truths that will change the direct trajectory of your business. Albert, thank you. Appreciate it, man. This has
My
been
pleasure.
Non-Filtered, and see you guys on the next go round.